running away from you, from you.
Good morning. Thank you for having me here today. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Rick Chavez Zbur, and I proudly represent California's 51st Assembly District, which spans from Santa Monica to Griffith Park and includes West Hollywood, Hollywood, Beverly Hills, and East Hollywood. I also serve as a member of the Assembly Utilities and Energy Committee and the Natural Resources Committee. I also have the honor of serving as chair of the Assembly Democratic Caucus, where I work closely with with Speaker Rivas to help build consensus within our caucus on priorities. One of my top priorities, both personally and legislatively, is the development of California's offshore wind program and seaport infrastructure to support the offshore wind energy needs of our state. Offshore wind isn't just a futuristic concept. It's a present day, and it's an essential part of California's transition to a clean energy economy and a critical tool in our fight against climate change. The California Energy Commission, I think, as you all know, has set ambitious targets: 5 gigawatts of offshore wind by 2030 and 25 gigawatts by 2045. That's more than double the amount of electricity California generates today, but we can't reach these goals without serious investment, smart planning, and coordination across government, labor, environmental groups, and business leaders like those of you who are here today. And despite shifting winds at the federal level, particularly as we wait for a clear direction from Washington, there's plenty we can do at the state level to move this effort forward. I just want you to know that this is really important, and we shouldn't let the challenges in Washington slow us down. There's a lot that we can do while we're waiting for a better direction coming out of Washington. And we shouldn't, and we know that we will delay where we need to be if we let what's happening there slow us down, because there's a lot that we need to do here in California in order to make this, our goals a reality. Many wind projects don't require federal decisions in the near term, and that's why it's so important that we keep sending the right signals that California is ready, willing, and committed to leading on offshore wind. In my first term in the legislature, many of you know I authored AB 3, the California Offshore Wind and Jobs Advancement Act, which was signed into law in 2023. That bill directs the California Energy Commission to go beyond the foundational work of AB 525 and produce a second phase seaport readiness strategy. It sets clear timetables and goals, requiring the Commission to submit a report on its recommendation for seaport readiness strategy to the governor and the legislature by December 31, 2026. So that's only about a year and a half out. The bill also includes a study developed in the Workforce Development Board on how to achieve 50% and 65% in-state manufacturing and assembly jobs for offshore wind projects. That report is required 1 year later at the end of December 2027. This legislation isn't just about building turbines, it's about building opportunity for workers, for communities, and for California's future. We have an opportunity to become a powerhouse for offshore wind, not just in outputs, but in manufacturing and in assembly. Last year, I also introduced AB 3006, a bill to ensure that offshore wind port infrastructure was included in the governor's 5-year infrastructure plan and make sure that that planning takes place. While the bill was stalled last year, it has new life this year in AB 472, which is championed by my colleague, Assemblymember Chris Rogers, who's going to be speaking with you in a minute, and I'm proud to co-author that with him. The bill calls for aligning our infrastructure priorities with our climate goals, just as Executive Order B 3015 and the Governor Newsom's own 2022 infrastructure plan called for. The fact is, not a single port in California currently meets the requirements needed to assemble and deploy offshore wind turbines at scale. And these turbines are massive, as you know. The blades of just one turbine is so large that it could barely fit inside Dodger or Giant Stadium. These components require deep water ports and hundreds of acres of laydown space, And without planning and accountability, the infrastructure simply won't be there in time. And so we need to continue focusing on our port infrastructure right now. But planning alone isn't enough. We need funding. That's why last year I worked alongside many of you, Environment California, our labor unions, those of you in this space, and Assembly members Jim Wood and Josh Lowenthal to introduce AB 2208, which at that point proposed $1 billion general obligation bond to support seaport infrastructure for offshore wind. As you know, we later chose to merge our efforts into the broader climate resilience bond, collaborating with Assembly members Eduardo Garcia and Lori Wilson to champion offshore wind infrastructure funding within the larger framework. I'm proud to report that that bond was voted into law as Proposition 4 by California voters, and that includes up to $475 million dedicated to offshore wind port infrastructure. That's a significant down payment. It's not nearly what we need, but we need to be sending the right signals, and that's a powerful statement of California's commitment to this industry. But make no mistake, the California Energy Commission estimates it will take at least $12 billion to upgrade our ports to meet offshore wind targets. So this bond funding must serve as a catalyst, not a capstone. We need strong public-private partnerships and additional investments to reach the finish line. And the good news is that funding that was in Prop 4 is there. The voters have approved that. It can't be taken away without going back to the voters, and so we know we've got that capstone preserved, and we need to focus on how to use that best. Even with strong planning and robust funding in place, there's still another critical piece of the puzzle. We simply can't meet our clean energy goals without the necessary infrastructure to deliver energy where it's needed most. How many times have you heard, there's no transition without transmission? Well, you're going to hear that again and again and again and again. And that's why I introduced AB 941, a bill that takes aim at one of the biggest obstacles we face in the energy transmission, permitting delays for critical infrastructure projects such as transmission lines. Right now, it takes far too long for priority grid projects to move through the regulatory process, time we don't have if we're serious about hitting our 2045 carbon neutrality goals. AB 941 establishes a 270-day timeline for the California Public Utilities Commission to determine whether or not to certify the environmental impact report for completed permit applications related to priority energy infrastructure projects. This is about making the process more efficient, more predictable, and more aligned with the urgency of the climate crisis without bypassing critical environmental review and public participation processes. Because if we want to bring offshore wind energy and offer clean power to homes and businesses across the state, we need transmission lines that carry it, and we need those lines built on a timeline that meets the moment. Offshore wind is more than just clean energy. It's an economic engine. It's our chance to retool our port economies and generate thousands of high-wage, high-skilled union jobs in communities that need them most. But if California does not establish offshore wind as a greater priority now, we not only risk falling behind on meeting our state goals, but also missing the window to be leaders in this space. Losing the opportunity to expand the domestic offshore wind supply chain means we risk losing that industrial capacity forever. If we get this right, we not only advance our climate goals, but we rebuild industries, we empower workers, and we make real progress on environmental justice and workforce equity. What excites me most about offshore wind is that everyone can come together on this issue, everyone. It's one of those things that brings folks that often are at friction together. Environmental advocates, environmental justice advocates, labor unions, our tribal communities, our business leaders, and our local governments. We all see the potential in this industry, and we also see the urgency. And voters see it too. California overwhelmingly supports clean energy investment, and offshore wind is a clear part of that mandate. And I guess I've mentioned this again. I don't want to close without mentioning the elephant in the room, which is the challenges we're facing at the federal level. And again, I want to reemphasize that those of us in California, we understand that that doesn't have to be a big hiccup. It's something that we just need to be committed to continuing to move forward with the things we have to do here in California, and we have plenty of work to do to make this industry a reality in the time period we need to do that. Promoting offshore wind energy and strengthening California's port infrastructure aren't just smart policies, they're necessary investments in our climate, our economy, and our people. We can't afford to wait for federal leadership. We must lead ourselves, and together we will. So thank you very much. I look forward to working with all of you to make offshore wind a reality in California. Thanks for everything that you are doing in your respective spaces. We will move towards a clean energy future, and as you all know, offshore wind is a crucial component of that. So thank you all very much for having me.